I like the Comanche analogy because as fighters, they fought much like a swarm. It was hard to see any organization. They moved in very diverse ways surrounding the American troops. They were hard to figure out where they were doing or how they were doing it. And at the same time, their culture was such that they didn't have a hierarchical organization. Chief in an organization like that was someone that didn't so much have authority as had influence, who had wisdom, but he wasn't ordering other people to do different things. They didn't have platoons and squad leaders. So it was a very flat organization, yet it was a very fluid organization, both in terms of how they lived and how they engaged in combat. Let's look at command and control and why it's been here for 4 millennia, probably back to the Egyptians in agrarian time when they had first-line supervisors in the fields. Command and control works because it does 3 basic things. It helps focus strategy and tactics. It allocates resources, the people that go where, and capital. And it manages implementation. It gets work done. So what's to argue with? Well, command and control is kind of like, to my view, the incandescent light bulb. I mean, it keeps the lights on. There's plenty of light, but 95% of the energy goes to heat. And so it's inefficient. And so over the years, we have tried to take this form that we know works because it keeps the lights on and gets the job done, and make it more efficient because it's inefficient. Let me give you an example. So I stumbled on a Sunday morning newscast once about Dutch traffic circles. And a traffic circle, in Europe is they have many roads coming into a circle. And there are cars coming in, and there are bicycles coming in, and there are people with crosswalks going around them. And they'd had terrific safety problems in these traffic circles, although they had lights at all the intersections. So what they did, what someone came up with a clever idea, is take all the lights out. So there were no lights. And so what happened was that there was hardly any accidents, and the traffic flow improved. And the question is, are we controlling, when you control the system with the lights, are we really controlling the outcomes that we want to have, which is safety and traffic flow? In fact, when we let and stopped regulating it and went to self-regulation, where people took responsibility for seeing if another car was coming, see if people were coming, seeing if a bike was there, we went to self-regulation for that part of the system actually improved. So there's a difference between controlling the system in control and controlling behavior. Command and control is about controlling behavior in the hopes that it controls the system. Now, I'm not saying that less control or less regulation is the right answer, but there's a certain infrastructure that goes with fluid form that is dependent on the specific situation, that is different from command and control infrastructure, that is oriented more around self-regulation of those people closest to the work. I was involved a number of years ago with a high-tech company in Silicon Valley. They made network storage systems. And these are big boxes at the time, and competitors make similar big boxes. And you make one and it lasts for a year or two, and then the competitor comes up with a new one and you've got to catch up. Otherwise they take your business. And this company had a competitor coming out with a new box in 6 months. And their old box was going to be obsolete. So they have 6,000 people that could be out of work, literally, if they can't stay up. But they had a problem. The best they had done before in coming up with a new product was 13 months. So they had to beat 6 months. And they were at a loss of what to do. So many times, instead of doing things through the bureaucracy, people put together an array of teams to try and make it leaner and meaner to get it done. They don't run the business that way, but when they're desperate, sometimes they do. So they put together 25 teams. Each one of the teams was to come up with one feature. They figured there were 25 features this new product had to have. And they had about 12 people on each of these teams. So they brought me in and said, you've got 4 hours with each of these teams to, kind of get them organized. There was a problem. None of these teams had anyone who'd been a team leader or a project leader. They're all young engineers, different cultures, not all speaking English very well. And so here we were, 25 teams of basically gaggles of individuals in a room. And then I decided I'd try something different. Sometimes the situation forces you to do something you would have never thought of. So I said, okay, let's divide up the work. Let's divide up the leadership role. So I asked people in each of the teams, I said, can anyone here do 1 or 2 of these, or can you do number 3 or number 7? And surely, it wasn't very hard. We divided it up. So a team of 12, maybe there are 4 or 5 people that divide up those 10 tasks. And there was a fair amount of comfort in doing that. Well, lo and behold, you know, the work seemed to be getting done. So we don't have team leaders, 25 teams. We don't have a director managing this, program manager managing this thing. And so what happened, their goal was to get it done in 5 months. The best they'd done was 13. They got it done in 3.5 months.
Incredible.
So why did that happen? I looked at it, I myself was amazed. Why did that happen? Well, I think in part, you can divide the leadership function up. When more people take that role on, they are doing things for the whole team, not just for themselves. They had connectors that were working on relationships between the other teams. And sometimes when a team leader has all of those things to do, they don't do as good a job. So by parsing out the work, we actually did a better job on all of those individual pieces of the leadership role. In addition, because there was no one managing it, they did a better job of finding synergy across those teams and getting it done. There was no project management at either level. And it happened in 3.5 months. Their goal was 5. And so they saved the company. And of course, when it was done, they all had to go back to their regular jobs, and they hated it because they had felt so productive and so eager to be in that organization that to go back was a terrific downer for them. So what organization would you rather be in? The fluid form one, the one that operates, that's self-regulated, that without all the management, that was only going to get in the way anyway. Think about it. Probably never would have happened had they had the traditional structure. Where would you like to be? An organization that can turn on a dime, where you have control over your time, you don't waste your time in meetings? And one other quick analogy here. When I was in college, they were putting in a lot of new buildings. And one year, I remember one building, they put it in the fall and they didn't put in sidewalks. I said, why? They didn't put in sidewalks. Well, of course it was winter and it rained. You know? And then there were little brown tracks all around there where people walked, which was usually the quickest way between places. And then in the spring when it stopped raining, they put sidewalks down right on top of those marks. So I said that was brilliant, because they didn't put in the other ones they didn't need, you know, the rectangular ones where people weren't going to walk anyway and they walk over the sidewalks. So to me, it's, you know, if you follow the process, then you put in the sidewalks. And that's how you make change happen. An Intel example a number of years ago, they had a problem. It took them 65 days from the time a customer ordered a product till the time they could tell them when the product was going to come. Not deliver it till they told them when it was going to come. Well, obviously, that was no good. So bureaucracy commissioned a big IT program to kind of pull all these things together, because they had long-range planning, division planning, product planning, fabrication planning, assembly planning, all in different places, all in different systems. So for 6 months they worked on it and it didn't work. So they did another 6-month project and it didn't work. So finally they got representatives of the 3 groups and put them in a room for 3 days, and they came up with an Excel spreadsheet that they had to do some manual stuff on that got it down to 5 days, from 65 to 5 days. Really? And then they called in the IT guys, and in about a month they put a system together on top of that. So they put the sidewalk on top of where the people worked. But see, that's the problem. In these hierarchical organizations, often we're going down the steps and across the thing. We're going on these rectangular steps all the time to get things done, instead of putting sidewalks down where the people work. And those sidewalks in the fluid form are going to change. They're going to be there for a while and then they're going to disappear. And we're missing that. And it's not that hard to do. It's not that hard to do. We're just so used to not doing it. We're so used to our careers and our lives being tied to going up the hierarchy. And my bet is, particularly the younger crowd today, it ain't that big a deal to them.